I think one of the things that I've learned in the last 6 or 8 weeks from therapy and just reconsidering the work that I was doing is that you can't be too self-critical. You have to say, you have to do what you can do, and you have to let that be good enough. And you have to, and it changes from time to time. What is good enough? You know, on a day when you're not feeling well and you're stressed out, and you know, might be a lot less than when you're well rested and you know, you're just ready to go. You know, so having compassion for yourself and being able to know when things are good enough and not to, and maybe that's a particular a fault of mine. I grew up as the great hope of my family. I was the oldest child. I was the one that was chosen to go to college. I was the one that was chosen to be successful, as opposed to the rest of my family, which I had a bunch of sisters and brothers. I was the one that was chosen to do that, and so I became a perfectionist because I couldn't fail. The whole family depended on whether I succeeded or not, and so, or at least that was the perception of the little boy, and so maybe the good enough thing is simply, maybe that's my thing, but I think it's pretty good advice for anybody that does hard work, particularly peace work. There was a retreat, a board retreat that I went to, where we were, doing some hard work trying to figure out the configuration of our staffing going into the future. And I sat in the middle of that group, and I told them that I hadn't felt safe there for a while, and it just came out of my mouth. I didn't know that I was going to say that. It just came out. And to not, I mean, safety is such a basic thing that if you don't feel safe, there's not much else you can do. I don't think, because it is so basic. Beyond Maslow said it was like sits on top of food and water. You know what I mean? And I think at that point I knew that I had to do something that, was better than what I was doing. I was definitely struggling with risking arrest around some actions, an action that was coming up, and relationship to authority is really a, growing up 16 years in Catholic school, a lot of the messages that came through that system were that authority was a good thing, police were good, they were helpers, et cetera, et cetera. And a new understanding of the police and other authority that I had gained, sent me in a different direction. And that conflict, I couldn't resolve that conflict. And that I think was part of what kind of said to me, I need to pull back and figure out what the heck's going on here. I do know that the work goes on. I mean, I stay in touch with people that are in the work, and I'm essentially preparing myself to get back in the work. So I'm taking a Buddhist meditation course that will carry me through the next 7 or 8 months. I'm increasing my physical activity, just trying to get my diet back. I lost a bunch of weight. Just didn't. I wasn't sleeping. I was, I was all over the place, and a lot of that's starting to come back. And as those things smooth out, what I find happening is that things occur to me. Opportunities arise, and I look at them and I go, yeah, I could do that. And I have tried to learn when to say. I'm learning now when to say no, because I don't think I ever did learn to say no. Every time something came up, I would say, yeah, I can fit that in somewhere, and eventually none of it fit. Eventually, it all came to a head, and it was overwhelming, and I couldn't do anything well. My personal relationships were not functioning. I have a 54-year relationship with my wife, which I wasn't. I just wasn't paying enough attention to what her needs were, and fortunately, she's a really excellent person, and has supported me all these years and will continue to, I think. And but I've started to learn as I've drawn back. I've started to see that, I've started to see her more, and see what she needs and what her hopes and what she knows, because she knows an incredible amount about what's going on, and I never gave her credit for that. I was always judging that, and I do this with other people. I judge people to be not as knowledgeable as me, to be not as committed as me, to be, and that's another sign that, once I get there, if I'm judging you about how committed you are, what am I doing if I'm doling out that judgment? It can't be right. I didn't like what was happening. I didn't like who I was, or who I was with other people, and they were just all signs that there was a big old problem, and something had to be done.